Hello. You are a creature of choice. It's what we were made to do. Evolutionarily, if you were to look at it, we make choices that determine whether we live or die. And this is the basis of life, pretty much. Because life wants to keep existing and reproduce. That's about, it. And that in itself is a choice, whether to keep existing or to not. And that is why we are so fundamentally interesting, because of the choices we make. And that determines, on the grander scale, who we are as people. And you can see that some choices have different outcomes. And there's not just choices in the, I would say the physical sense of like the choice between me going there or me going there. It's also the choice of the mentality and the way that you see things. If there's a choice between seeing it in a negative way, the glass is half empty, or a positive way, the glass is half full, to put a little metaphor there. Maybe an analogy. It's an analogy. And that choice, the decisions that you make are who you become. And the mentality choice is a much bigger choice than most people think. I think most people don't put a lot of thought into their mentalities. And they stick to the ways that they were raised or the ways, they came to be. But from year 0 to 20 and year 20 to 40, it's the same amount of time, yet your mentality changes very little 20 to 40. Because you just simply stay with what you know. But there is a lot to learn in taking in different philosophies, different ideas, different ways of living. Because I myself am a very optimistic guy. And I try to look for all the good that there is. But there is also a lot to learn from looking at it in a pessimistic point of view. And I guess choosing between those two, it gives you a lot of information to take in more than one perspective and to see the world through different lenses instead of just the lens that you always choose to look at the world with. And differing perspectives, besides just coming with information, it gives you more choices, because the pessimist will choose differently than the optimist. And that's more choices means more opportunities to do something interesting. And I am looking to lead an interesting life. And so I look to make interesting choices. And sometimes, whenever the optimist makes the pessimistic choice, it is quite interesting where that road leads. And besides the mentality aspect of it, there are way more choices than you know. Whenever a person is looking at a choice, any choice, they see it either 2 to 3 different ways, maybe 4, if you're really looking at it. But there are innumerable amount of choices that you could make in that instance. And sometimes you might get analysis paralysis and have to divvy it down into a few choices, which is how our brains were meant to operate. But nowadays, not in hunter-gatherer anymore, we have many, many more choices. And being able to see or to innately go towards the better options is a skill I'd imagine most people would want to have. It divides down the infinite choices into a better pool than before. And that is where I'd say using the differing perspectives to give you more choices and having a more critical eye on your decision making. Because decision making is also, the word we use for making choices, and improving it through not just like, you gotta make the decision now, but instead to see the choices that most people wouldn't see is what leads to an interesting life. And improving one's decision making is actually not too difficult. The task itself of just thinking about the choices that you have isn't that difficult. It just requires a lot of repetition and also a good amount of feedback to see where your choices led you and where the other ones could have taken you. And this requires a more critical eye, right? Of actually thinking about the choices that you have made and choosing to look at them and analyze it of this choice and how it affected you. Because the life that you lead now was decided by you, and that was a decision, a choice. So looking back at it and not judging the choice. You don't want to judge your choices. You just want to analyze the choice that you made to see how well it was made and what other options there were. And maybe if you were to look back at it, think about what you might do now in that situation, which we automatically do anyways, and think about, like, how can I use this going forward? And that is the key to, like, grade A decision making. If you want to be a phenomenal decision maker, you need to look at a lot of decisions. And sometimes when we look at other people's decisions, we, always don't have all the information. And even when we make our own choices, we don't have all the information. We just, look at the information that we have and use that as our base. Decision-making skills could also include looking for information that we don't have and considering other possibilities about, possible interpretations of our information. But when looking at someone else's decision, we first cloud it with a lot of our judgment of like, I wouldn't do that. You have to look at it from their perspective, and more perspectives, more decisions, right? You can consider, like, not just from your perspective of like, I have my identity, and with my identity I would make this choice, but instead, if I were to have another identity, could this choice that identity make benefit me more? This is, I think, like, the fundamentals of critical thinking, and using it in that way is fun. I mean, I enjoy it. And when we're looking at other people's decisions, we use our judgment instead of our critical thinking. And so losing that judgment, if you were to stop judging people and yourself based on the decisions that you choose to make, then you can analyze the decisions you already have made without judgment to improve them for the future. Anyways, toodles.